Hello, and welcome to Phantom Zone, the podcast where we dredge the lakes of hell in search of the worst the cinematic world has to offer. Then we put it on trial for its various sins against humanity, and should a film be found guilty, it will be jettisoned into the far, far reaches of space. A Phantom Zone, if you will. I'm your host, Adrian Torres, and joining me as always is my good friend Scott Daly. How are you doing, Scott?
I'm doing pretty good, Adrian. We are back. We took a little time off.
Yes.
I had to move.
Yes,
and
you did.
I've done that now. But we're back. I missed bad movies, believe it or not.
You mean you didn't still watch bad movies?
No, see, unlike you, I only watch bad movies when you make me do it.
That's unfortunate, Scott. You're not living life to its full potential if you're not embracing a bad movie at least once a week.
If this week's movie is an example of living my life to my full potential, count me out.
Then you're not living the ways of the ninja, Scott. Oh, I'm sorry. The warrior's way.
Yeah, they're not... they say ninja like once, but then they just refer to themselves as warriors.
And practicers of ninjutsu. We are talking about the 1988. It doesn't matter what year we add to it because it's essentially timeless. It's a tale as old as time. A ninja as old as rhyme. We are talking about Ninja Vengeance. Interesting point about Ninja Vengeance on IMDb. The rating that it has continually fluxes between 1.8 stars and 2.1 stars. Depending upon where it is at any given time, it usually falls below the scores that are achieved on the bottom 100.
Wow.
But the reason it's not on that list is because it lacks the amount of votes you have to be eligible to fall into the bottom 100.
Well, now we have a goal. Let's get this movie into the bottom 100.
We've got at least 100 people that listen to it. I don't know if that's enough, but if they tell two friends, and they tell two friends, and then they tell two friends,
there we go.
Then it'll lead in a mass suicide of people who were forced to watch Ninja Vengeance against their will. So maybe not the best route that we should go down. I, as always, was perusing Vudu and was trying to find a movie that I hadn't heard of. And when I came across Ninja Vengeance, I stopped dead in my tracks and I added it to the watch list. I wanted to watch it myself, but when I saw the explanation of what this story was, I had to contact Scott and say, hey, when are we recording next? Because I have the movie for us. And he said, well, I think we can do it next week. I'm not exactly sure. Got to check and everything. And then I told him the synopsis of the movie, and he said, yes.
I cleared my schedule. Schedule cleared.
So I'm not gonna give you the Vudu one because it's kind of lame, unfortunately. The IMDb one is what sold me. IMDb says, after he witnesses the death of a black law student, Chris, an American ninja, decides to clean a little redneck town from the KKK, Ku Klux Klan. So you have a movie in which you have an American ninja who's planning to rid the town of the KKK.
I'll tell you what, though, Adrian. There's some spots where this movie's a little woke. Some of them, not everywhere.
We'll discuss some of the things that are inside this movie that may be questionable, and then may also lean towards exposing the views of the director or writer that seems to be very conflicted, I would say.
I think when you sit down to write a movie and you say, what things do I like? I like ninjas and I like black people. And so I guess that's what happens when someone sits down to write this movie, because that's what this movie is.
You also had somebody who said I don't think that I like racism, but I may have family members who are racist, so I want to push the edge for certain audience members, but I don't want to piss off my family entirely.
Yeah, that's true.
It's very awkward. Vudu's description is a lot lighter, and that's because this is one of the impact films that I haven't looked into it still, so I apologize. I'll let everybody know for the next episode. But they are some type of foreign on-demand video provider. It's either it's somewhere in the UK is what I want to say, given the sound of the voice of the guy. But it looks like it's a company that at some point bought the rights to a whole bunch of MGM archive films, because if you look on Vudu and you look at lots of their free movies, some of the older, weirder ones, or at least the ones that pop up under the Impact brand, are all from the MGM library.
Yeah, and this isn't the first Impact movie. I think America 3000 was an Impact movie that we did, and I think that was MGM too. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was an MGM canon thing.
Oh yeah.
There's been several different movies. I know that they had last month. I don't think it's on there anymore, but they had Cherry 2000, which I actually got to see in the theater, which was cool last month on a 35 millimeter print. But I did see it on there, and it had the Impact logo, and that one I know is MGM since I saw it in the theater. But there's a whole bunch, and so I think they're movies that when MGM was in the process of probably going under years back, that their rights went up for grabs, and they just never put any rebranding over it, and they just left it since that's where the rights were at the time, is my guess. It's interesting to see that this movie was released by MGM.
I know. Out of all the movies we've done, this is probably the lowest budget looking film we've talked about. And I say that knowing that we watched a movie called Señorita Justice.
Yes.
But yeah, the budget here is not great. The ADR and the sounds, just the sounds in general, are terrible.
Surprisingly, when the movie opens, the very first thing you see is a title card for the movie. It looks standard and it looks generic, and they've got light. Would it best be nice to just say that it's Asian sounding music is the way that they go, because it just sounds like generic music from Asia, and it lasts all of maybe like 15 seconds, and then they have a giant monologue that takes place, and then when they jump out of it into the movie proper, that music's gone away, and it's become like the cheapest soundtrack that you can think of. If anybody's ever seen the Cannibal the Musical that Trey Parker and Matt Stone did, it sounds like their music from that movie, but that movie, of course, is a comedy that's spoofing other musicals.
Yeah, there's a bunch of like sound loops in GarageBand, and I know this was before GarageBand, but that's what it reminded me of. It's the cheapest possible little sound loops that you can combine together for free to make a soundtrack to your movie.
And I think the end credit song that they have is the only full song that they have, because there's little parts where you hear songs on the radio, and it's clearly somebody that they were just like, okay, you've got 30 minutes. You need to write a song for us.
I can't believe you stayed for the end credits. I turned this thing off soon as it was over.
I was trying to see if the end credit music was going to be as amazing as Snake Eater. It wasn't.
It won't happen. It won't happen.
It's no one's surprise, but I had to try just to see. The monologue that occurs caught me off guard, because we have the title flash. It says Ninja Vengeance. Then we have the music that sprinkles, and then it dissolves into what can only be described as a negative camera filter filming people doing what looked like at the time karate, but is actually ninjutsu.
And it's super mediocre ninjutsu. Like, they are moving slowly. They don't look like they know what they're doing. It's not great, Adrian.
Yes. And all of a sudden we have a voice that says, like the fathers of your grandfather, it was your destiny to become a ninja. Okay, let's stop right there. Who starts a conversation or any type of sentence with the phrase, like the fathers of your grandfathers?
Sensei number 1, whose name I never got.
He didn't have a name. He was just Beardy McGee, basically.
No, perfect.
But do you say, whatever it is, great grandma, great grandfather, or do you say the father of your grandfather?
I've never said it that way, but I've also never been a ninja, so I don't know. An American ninja
who follows the way of the warrior.
Super white ninja. No Asian people in this movie at all.
There's not. That's continues the monologue saying, from the teachers of far-off lands, your ancestors discovered the secrets of the universe and the means to complete joy in existence. For this, they were hunted down in their mountain homes by religionists who feared the potential of enlightened common men. Thus was born the legend of the invisible warriors.
What? I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, it's just... and it continues on still. Mountain mystics who guide...
I'm so glad you wrote this down.
who guide their powers into protecting the innocent that they loved and the truths that they sheltered. And it still goes on for like another minute, and you're just sitting there and you're watching the real... It doesn't look like it's slow motion. You can just tell that it's beginner students that are doing ninjutsu with the negative camera filter on it. And just this guy droning on, and you're like, what the fuck is happening?
They kind of outkicked their coverage here with this monologue, because it makes everything sound way cooler than anything you see on screen.
Oh. And then we see our secondary main character of Sam waking up in a bed and going to take a shower, and then the camera zooming in on the picture of a person in her bookcase. Was that supposed to be her friend? Because we never revisit...
I have no idea.
We never revisit that room?
Nope.
We never see that picture again?
The only reason for the shot is to show her boobs. That's it. Because
but the shot directly after that, when she's gone into the bathroom, is still in her room from a completely different angle that wasn't pointed towards her, that focuses on this picture.
I couldn't tell who it was. I had no idea.
I didn't know if it was supposed to be Michael, her friend we meet in a couple minutes.
Could be. I would not think her father would let her put a picture like that in her room, considering he is the most racist person ever.
Oh, no, he's not the most racist person ever. The sheriff is the most racist person ever, followed by his son, who's the second most racist person ever.
Equality and racism. I think they're all equally racist.
Then we meet our hero, even though we don't see him for a few minutes or learn his name or anything. And he has the most fucking ridiculous introduction of all time when he's riding his motorcycle, because you know what the movie's about. You know what he is, but the movie thinks it's being subtle, saying, hey, did you guys see? He's riding a Kawasaki Ninja.
Yeah, very clever.
A ninja. A ninja's riding a ninja. Guys, we have nailed it.
Also, did you catch the soundtrack music playing during this? It's kind of ominous. Like, I thought at first that this was the bad guy of the movie.
Yes. I thought that he was the killer, and he was going to go into that diner, and he was just going to pull out the gun and shoot the black guy who was in there.
Yeah.
And then do like some KKK salute and walk out. It was just, he seemed very ominous. He's all clad in black, but it's like black leather. He's got his Kawasaki Ninja, and it's like, oh, it's going to be a ninjas versus ninjas thing. Not so much.
But he's heading to a conference in Houston. Is it a ninja conference?
No. It's a seminar, because he makes sure to say several different times that it's a seminar he's going to. And he, when he calls one of his friends and mentions that he's run into some trouble, he says, "No, it's okay. You guys can start without me."
So is it a ninja seminar? I mean, what's going on in Houston?
I don't know. I don't.
Why have I never been to the Houston Ninja Seminar?
I assumed that his sensei was there.
Maybe. I mean, his sensei, as far as I'm concerned, has never left that beach because he's just sitting hanging out on the beach.
The beach that it's actually 3 beaches turned into one. You can tell, depending upon which shot and which angle they're at, which beach they're on.
Yeah,
because one of them they've rented like part of the beach, and the other one they're just really far down from everyone else, hoping that no one gets into their shot. But you can see other people in the distance who are clearly not practicing ninjutsu.
Yeah, this entire movie was filmed in Texas. It takes place in Texas. It was filmed in Texas, mostly in Houston, but I think the forests and the beaches were in the Gulf area.
Okay. Thank you for that insight, because that's
very important. That's
what was eating away at me when it came to this movie. We get a taste for the wonderful acting on display from one of the characters' random friends, who's sitting at the bar and says, "Hey, Donna, can we get some coffee down here?"
Yeah, again, the sounds in this movie are real bad.
It was brilliant. But it was brilliant because you could tell that not only did the guy who was giving the line reading, it was probably not great to begin with, but then that's the best they could do with whoever was providing the ADR, whether it be they brought that guy in or they said, "Hey, we need you to do a great job because this guy did shit." And that's the best they could get out of the person.
Well, and those people are having a side conversation, and like it's the most like bogus like filler dialogue ever. It's like, "Did you catch the football game with the cheerleaders?"
Well, there's so many conversations that are like that, but because the sound mixing, not just like the regular ADR itself, but like the actual way that live dialogue was mixed, that you get overlapping conversations.
Yeah.
At the inopportune times. Like, other people haven't read the script, so they don't know that the main characters are actually talking at this point, because you miss a couple words because the people who are having the other conversation on in the background are actually who you're hearing.
Yeah, and it's mixed so terribly. You're right. So it like the background conversations come to the forefront, and you can tell someone was sitting in a recording booth. Like this is not mixed or planted in the movie in any kind of believable way.
The movie leans in and lets you know that there are super racist people in the South, because the guy whose friend asked for more coffee turns around after realizing, "Oh, hey, there's a black person who just sat down 2 seconds ago. I'm going to come over and treat them absolutely like shit because it's the South and I'm a prick and that's all we can do."
Yeah, it's the overt racism here is kind of absurd.
All of it is absurd because it's written by somebody who thinks this is how everybody acts. And they think that the correct reaction is a piece of dialogue he gives to Michael, because Jesse, who is the deputy sheriff, it makes the racial stereotype about, "Oh, you guys are supposed to be so lazy. I can't believe you didn't roll out of bed until noon." And then Michael turns away in a hushed voice, said, "What, did you run out of dogma to theorize on?"
But it's funny that like these guys are in uniform while they're just being openly racist, and that's why I think like I think it's stumbling into actual clever social commentary by having these guys be police officers. But I don't think it's intentional, but
no, it's just the fucking South. I know that this is. If you look at anything that this writer did, he's just like, no, it's really corrupt in the South. So they don't give a shit. They're projecting onto certain characters things that they believe to be universal truths. It's just the same, like the fact that that's what he has Michael say as his response. It's like, no one's ever going to respond like that. That doesn't make sense, because what are you saying? Is the only reason you're saying that is because you're in the South, and because he's racist, you automatically think that he's also going to be super religious, and therefore your statement is going to
yes
to jibe with him. But at the same time, if you're saying that, then you're also going, why don't you just lean into the stereotype that it's the South, and so people are dumb hicks down there? So why would he understand the words that you're necessarily using in that order? You just chose a slam that doesn't work upon anybody.
Yeah, I mean, that's true.
And if we go into even further stereotypes, if you're saying things that make you look like a smart ass or a smart aleck or more intelligent than this person, all that does is make them matter.
Yeah, for how overtly racist and violent these guys are, he's pretty confident in his ability to counteract them.
Yeah, and I'm just like, no, that's not the correct way to do it.
But I think the fundamental issue with this movie is you're writing a movie about dealing with the KKK, and your only black character in the movie, who dies very soon into it, is also not characterized at all. He's black, and he's going to go to law school, and he wants to get out of town, and that's it.
No, he's in law school.
He's just back for the summer?
Yeah, that's what he says, is that he even mentions when he's talking to Sam, he makes a comment about the fact that he's only back, for semester break, basically, and then he's going to be getting back out of the town, which is why it makes it weird that he tells her that she can actually get out and make something of her. It's like, well, you're a law student.
And you're back.
You got out of there once you're done with school, because it seems like he just went off to school is how he makes it sound. And that's part of the reason why everybody's reacting the way they are when he's just going into places, is because he's been gone for a couple months.
I would never go back. I would never go back.
No, that's because you die. That's what the movie says. You die. Also, little detail that made me laugh my ass off, but I know no one would care about whatsoever. Our main brilliant hero, Chris, when he goes into this diner, he orders, oatmeal and orange juice. Doesn't eat or drink any of it. Pays and leaves. Because he's there at the table while everything's going on behind him, and that only elapses 2 minutes, and he everybody gets done arguing, and he pays and just leaves without eating an ounce of his oatmeal or drinking his orange juice.
And he doesn't do anything. He doesn't jump in. He doesn't defend the guy. He doesn't say a word. He just gets up. The only reason any of this happens is because his motorcycle happened to break down. And that's the only reason why he's a part of this movie at all.
And it didn't seem like there was any issues, because he was on the interstate and everything, and then pulled off just to get something to eat in this town, and goes back out, and his motorcycle stopped. So I thought maybe the sheriffs had done something, because they're not just racist, they're just terrible people in general.
Yes, well, that's very true. Because they're all Klan members. Every male in this town is in the Klan.
Well, that we know of. Did we see the mechanic at the meeting?
I mean, he might have had a hood on, Adrian. We don't know.
They weren't all wearing hoods in that scene.
Yeah, which was weird. I don't know. I don't understand the Ku Klux Klan. I haven't done a lot of research into it. I do appreciate that the leader is called the Grand Cyclops, which is a hilarious title to give someone.
Did you also feel like the movie assumed it was showing restraint, and by getting to minute 12 before it dropped the N-word? Yeah,
I guess. I mean, it's actually used very sparingly in the movie. It's not used very often. Well, that's the crazy part about this is, except for the inciting event, none of this has to do with racism or the Ku Klux Klan, except that they happen to be the guys that our hero is up against. because he witnesses them murder this black guy. And that's literally, like, it's why? Why did you do it this way?
I don't. Because, like I said, it's somebody who felt that it was something important, but at the same time, they had family members who probably were KKK members, and they didn't want to piss them off entirely. Yeah. So they're like, well, okay, so we're going to say it's only this portion of the KKK people. We're not saying all of them are bad, just these lot are bad. Because
you have the KKK redemption angle in Sam's father, who I guess learned something by the end of the movie.
Okay,
kind of.
Okay, we'll get to that in a second. Minute 12 occurs inside Sam's dad's kind of like general store type place. Her friend, Sam's friend, while talking about school and telling her that she needs to take the opportunity to get out of town because she hasn't decided if she wants to turn in a letter to try to go to school, ends up walking into the general store with her not paying attention, not thinking that anything big is going to come of it. And her dad ends up kicking him out because the sheriff is there and has his son Jesse, who's the deputy sheriff, get him outside and basically shoos him off and then tries to talk to Sam for a couple minutes because they used to date. But when they go back to the counter, Chris is standing there buying groceries and everything, and Sam's dad, John, starts a very long, winding and awkward conversation that includes the line, "You know how those folks can get, don't you?"
And he doesn't respond. All.
Chris doesn't respond, and then Sam's dad says, "Even though I've never had any trouble with them."
He's the good kind of racist. It's okay.
Well, what the movie kind of leans into, and it's a really, really fucked up notion when you put like 2 to 2 together what's going on, is Sam makes a big deal about the fact that her dad has acted weird and off since her mom died.
Yeah.
When you put 2 and 2 together with everybody that he's spending time with, his wife basically died. He got depressed, and the Grand Cyclops came to him and said, "Hey, you know what? Everybody needs a group. They need a place where they can go and make friends. We understand that you're a widower and things are really tough right now, but know that you have a friend in the KKK." And he slowly wiped a tear from his eye and thought to himself, well, you know what? Now that my wife's dead, I might as well take up hating black people.
I will honor the memory of my dead wife by pushing the Aryan agenda.
I'm going to subjugate these people to so much hate now that my wife is dead, even though they had absolutely nothing to do with it whatsoever.
Oh my God.
I realized that, and I was like, what type of fucked up world is this dude trapped in that, like, this is his only escape? It's...
Oh, man, we're just getting started.
Well, he just, like, the conversation just keeps on going on. Like, Chris isn't even paying attention, and Sam's dad just keeps on asking him all these questions.
I mean, it's
conversation with himself.
It's pretty obvious that this entire conversation was written after the fact and just ADR. I mean, all the dialogue.
It's ad-libbed. If you watch about 40 to 50% of this movie are shots of back of people's heads, other people looking at them and reacting, not saying anything, and just a whole bunch of random dialogue being filled in because they basically had no script, and it just felt like, say whatever you want here. You've got 2 minutes to fill.
We'll deal with it in post.
But that is post, basically, so they're already fucked.
Yeah, you're right. The directing is obviously not very good. They do very little coverage of each scene. There's usually like 1 or 2 camera setups. They don't do any over the shoulder. Well, they do a lot of over the shoulder, but they don't cut to the other side ever. It's bad.
The director's enthralled by his basic like psychology 101 that he throws out to people, because Chris, when he's walking outside, sees that Sam's having trouble with her car, ends up helping her, and she gets it fixed. And he responds to a comment that she makes, just a general, oh, thanks, cars are stupid. And he says, everything begins with a start. Thoughts form into words, but it's only made real by our actions.
I wrote that down too, because we're talking about a car not starting. What the fuck are we doing?
And she's on the other side of the hood, and she gives an eye roll and then reacts like, oh, fuck, I hope they didn't get that on camera. It
was the most real part of the entire movie.
Yeah, even the girl's annoyed. And my note directly after says, fuck this hero and his annoying ass face.
Yeah.
Because he just keeps on positing random things. Then we get the most delicious tidbit about Chris's background when she asks him where he's coming from and where he's going. And he reveals that he's coming from Wyoming to go to Houston. That's right, ladies and gentlemen.
What?
Not only are there super white ninjas out there, but Wyoming has their own source of ninjas that are protecting all those wonderful borders.
That's where that beach was, right?
Yeah, clearly.
A beach in Wyoming.
It's like, they mentioned that detail, and I'm like, I know we're already, pushing credulity as is, but now magically, we've got Wyoming ninjas.
Yeah, I mean, this movie is nonsense. So, stuff like this, like, they just named a state that was far away to show that he's from out of town, and they didn't really consider what that meant at all. It's almost like the writer of this movie just liked ninjas a lot, and maybe even studied ninjutsu or something, but so he threw this in here, but he didn't have any Asian friends, so he had to have white people play it. It doesn't make any sense.
He also really loves his wife because he sticks her in the diner as the main waitress, who turns out to magically be Sam's best friend that we only meet for
apparently.
This next other scene, because she's supposed to be another friend that she can confide in and say, hey, yeah, definitely you need to get out of here. And Sam says, well, yeah, because of course you went out to Hollywood to make it as a big actress. And the waitress goes, yeah, but I had priorities back home. And all of a sudden you see a child who's standing behind the counter and goes, Mommy, can I have some more food? And I was like, where the fuck did this kid come from? We've been in this diner at least twice already in this movie. There's you don't see like any back rooms or anything. This child's been like just huddling underneath this corner while all those people were getting in the fight earlier.
Yeah, I mean, it's a commentary on modern day America where you have to bring your child to your diner with you because there's no child care. You have to have your child witness terrible racism in your diner because you can't afford to pay someone to watch him.
Every day's a lesson, Scott.
It's true.
Every day's a lesson. Probably my favorite shot or scene in the entire movie is what follows, and when we see Chris go to his terrible rundown hotel that he's having to stay in because his bike's going to be fixed the next afternoon. They think they're going to get the parts in. But he goes back to his room, puts down his duffel bag, unzips the duffel bag so you can see what's inside it, and then proceeds to lay everything on the bed in a very organized fashion. And that's not just like his gi that he has in there, a regular shirt, some throwing stars, 2 books on ninjas, just you name it. But he's laying everything out so the camera picks up on it, and it just looks unnatural. I was like, okay, that's a weird shot. I'm glad we're going away from this. And he walked over to the mirror, looked in the mirror for a second, and then threw his wallet down onto the counter so it was perfectly opened up on the picture of him and his sensei, and then just casually threw his little pendant necklace that's a yin and yang so that it landed perfectly in frame next to the wallet. And that's what made me say, fuck you, movie.
Okay, here I'm gonna broach this now.
Yes.
Ninjutsu is Japanese. The yin and the yang are Chinese.
Yes.
This movie is just like, It's all Asian shit, right? Just throw all the Asian shit together.
Well, the whole reason that he has the yin yang is we learn later in the movie through flashback that one of the last conversations he had with his mentor was his mentor trying to explain to him yin and yang in a way that had nothing to do with yin and yang.
It made no sense.
And it also proved that he has no idea how to draw yin and yang.
Yeah, because
the symbol that he draws is not yin yang.
No, not at all. And they cut away from it, and the thing they cut back to, which is clearly a different drawing, looks a little more like yin yang.
But it's still really close together.
It's really bad.
It's just this whole movie just there's times where it goes off the rails, but unfortunately there's a large portion of the movie that's just completely boring. The first half is not. The first half is just packed with so much nonsense. We've got a shot where Sam's going to drop the letter in the mailbox, but the way they have it framed, they make sure that she's almost like a fourth out of frame just so they can get a giant shot of the American flag in there. We've got a ninjutsu demonstration by Chris where he has flashbacks to his sensei teaching him how to do the moves correctly. And even though he's been only working out for 15 seconds, he's already dripping with sweat and got giant pit stains.
And he just like rolls constantly. Like,
for
no reason.
He does what? No, he does what?
What is it? Is there an official term for it?
He somersaults.
I'm sorry. He rolls.
Not only does he somersault, he somersaults a total of 11 different times in the movie.
You counted it? Of course you counted it.
Well, when he first did it, like, he rolled and then popped up into the stance, and I'm like, oh, they think that's the coolest thing in the entire world.
Yeah.
They're going to try to stretch and make sure that anytime there's an action scene, or even if there's a small hallway that he's confronting people in, he will somersault because that's the coolest thing. These are people who watched Gymkata and said, we can do something that's equally as cool, but 1,000 times lamer.
Yeah, it's super lame. It's super dumb. He does not... He's the worst ninja ever. He's a terrible ninja. He gets caught so many times. He's like never invisible.
I know that I just mentioned Gymkata, and he makes the lead of Gymkata look like, sterling perfection, basically.
Is now the time to say I've never seen that movie?
You should see Gymkata.
It's on the list.
You should. It's on some streaming service. Watch it definitely this weekend. It's a terrible movie, but it's so entertainingly bad. This movie could use a big injection of Gymkata into its live stream because we already mentioned the possibility of Wyoming having an ocean just because we have no idea where that's actually taking place. I'm guessing maybe it's a coast, like maybe there's some secret ninjutsu beach training camp you can go to.
Yeah, it's definitely not in Japan because there are no Asians there.
No. He's they teach them the basic tenets of using the weapons and the lifestyle that they want them to focus on. And the whole reason that they practice with the weapons is so that they've posed a challenge to themselves. And they're able to conquer their fear. But it has nothing to do, supposedly, with them actually using the weapons. And they even said the path of the warrior who goes out into the world to face challenges and cultivate the experiences into a personal power. What the fuck?
None of the monologue that his master gives at the beginning of the movie, or in the 2, 3, or 4 flashback scenes we have throughout the middle of this movie, make any sense at all, and they have nothing to do with any resemblance of an arc that the main character goes on. It's nonsense. It's pointless padding for a movie that is basically a guy runs away from police for an hour and then kills them.
It's not so much runs away from police as it is saunter through the woods.
Yeah, through like the same stretch of woods that's shot from different angles to make it look like it's different places.
Well, it takes us to get to like minute 27 until we come around to what's supposed to set the movie in motion. And the only reason that Chris stumbles upon what's going on is because he's really sad that he thought about his mentor for most of the day and goes for a long run. And in the process of his running, he happens to find a graveyard that directly on the other side of the graveyard is where a group of KKK members are beating up. I think his name was Charlie.
I thought it was Michael.
Michael. Okay, Michael. There we go. There's not even a Charlie in this movie, is there?
I don't think so.
Yes. Okay. Mike is getting beat up, and Chris goes over and tries to disarm a couple of them to get him off them, and he starts beating up all these guys very slowly, somersaults like 2 different times, and then grabs a hold of a guy and bends his arm back to disarm him, and he breaks the guy's arm, and instantly just stands there and goes, I broke his arm. I didn't want to, and just starts like getting really upset and feeling genuinely bad that he broke this guy's arm.
Yeah, but that's never really followed up on. Like, he's supposed to be like an unsure of himself ninja, I guess, who's like his training wasn't complete, except it was complete because we see him get a black belt. Which the belt system isn't even ninjutsu, I don't think. So it's again a thing.
Yeah, and the guy even mentions that while he hasn't fully actually earned the black belt, it's more of a symbol of what he can become once he has followed the rules enough that instead of just regurgitating back the training, that he's turned it into something of his own.
But he never does that, Adrian.
No, this movie just doesn't care. They make sure to show that Michael gets beat up and killed, and because of the fact that Chris is there beating up some of the people, he ends up getting arrested so that they can pin it on him. And the only reason that they try to pin it on him is because of the fact that everyone's corrupt in the town. Because he gets away for a moment and goes to a 7-Eleven and decides to call the police, and doesn't they don't ask him for much information, which should make the guy say, okay, something's not right here. And the police arrest him, and then the deputy or the sheriff shows up, and he gets handed over to them. It's just,
and then we get to my favorite part of the movie.
Oh,
when
Nana
comes up. This is like.
Nana, who is it's Mike's mom, and we find out at the beginning of the movie that Mike's mom cleaned Sam's house, or like her family's house, and Mike makes some comments about the fact that that's the only reason that they know each other, and that their families weren't really close or anything, and that there's a chance that she's only being nice because she misunderstood what his mom was doing there years ago. And then we meet Nana. Nana is so excited to see Sam, and it's the only person that she wants to be with. She's got several other kids in the house and is basically like, fuck you, I want Sam to take me down to the coroner's office so that I can find out how he died.
Yeah, and then they go visit the murderer, quote unquote, in prison. And she's, for some reason, I forget his name, the bad cop.
Jesse.
Yeah. For some reason, he lets her go right up and talk to him. Because Sam kind of flirts with him a little bit. And the conversation is just, did you kill my son? Nah. And then that's it. The end.
Oh, Jesus. It's terrible.
Yeah. It just like, I don't, again, like we get back to why is this the instigating part of the movie besides we wanted to do it this way? Like it doesn't, nothing ties together. His ninjutsu has nothing to do with the Ku Klux Klan. The Ku Klux Klan has nothing to do with why they're even like after him. Like you could write out the KKK and it's the same movie.
But it's because he wants to feel like he wants to the opportunity to say something big, but he has no idea what that is or how to say it. I mean, when Nana and Sam are leaving, the fact that after after she makes the comment of, he said that that the Klan killed Michael. What's her follow up?
She says they don't kill people anymore, and that is
the Klan doesn't kill people anymore.
Well, and this is where I thought the movie stumbled its way into being insightful in some kind of way, because here's this white woman living in this incredibly racist town. Her friend is a black guy, and she is seemingly just like completely unaware of how racist and terrible this town is, and that is interesting social commentary that I'm sure they didn't mean to do at all.
Yeah, they don't. It's not. So that's why you can't even give it any brownie points or anything, because it has no idea what it's trying to say whatsoever about any of these people. So Chris is able to escape just because he can.
Yeah, we never really see how. He just
doesn't answer. And Jesse comes into the room, and Sam ends up hitting him on the head, and so the two of them end up going on the run. And when I say go on the run, it's more like saunter through the woods.
Yeah, and it's not clear to me why she's with him at this point.
I think it's the idea in her mind that she could potentially get caught, or because of the fact that she knocked out Jesse, like she feels bad for that, I think. And she thinks that she's going to get in trouble for that part of it. And she also wants to help him right whatever wrongs because of the fact that Michael was her friend, but he doesn't really say what his plan is, because his plan is basically just to find a way to get to the seminar from where he is.
Yeah, and that's so this movie's called Ninja Vengeance. And neither of our two main characters seem particularly concerned with vengeance at all.
No. Even when it's established that they are trying to frame him for murder.
Yeah, he just wants to leave, and she wants out of the town too. She doesn't seem to care about the fact that this guy who she's liking now is saying that he didn't kill him. It was the Ku Klux Klan. It was people that you know. It was a guy that you used to date, I guess, is what they say.
A long time ago.
Yeah, which is not really clear, but neither of them cares about vengeance. In fact, the only real vengeance in this film is the bad guys against our main character.
Well, but that's one of my favorite things, is that she comes with him to help him, and then is basically a complete asshole half the time.
Right.
You know, when he's like, no, we need to go this way. She's like, no, we need to go that way. And he goes, no, we need to go this way. And then she makes a comment about, oh, well, under my breath, I'm going to mention that there's going to be a roadblock up there and you're going to be screwed. And then he comes back by, and she's just like, yeah, I knew the whole time. And it's like, just no, you're fucking being an asshole. Go up and stop the guy. He's an idiot. It's not going to be good for him if he's walking out there on his own. And sure enough, he almost gets caught. And when he almost gets caught, he gets into a prolonged, very slow, almost dance fighting, but it's not. It's just people sweeping each other's legs, basically, for 2 minutes, between Jesse and Chris. And the only reason that we know that Jesse is capable of being able to get into a fight in general is when he is introduced to the film. He does a jump kick that's a spinning roundhouse kick into a sign.
Yeah, he kicks the police sign at the very beginning of the movie.
When he's walking in, and it's like, oh, here you go. This guy knows karate some type of fighting style, therefore it's okay, when he randomly decides to get into a fist fight with a guy. Because he's a police officer and this is the South and none of them believe in living by the rules, he decides that he's going to try to shoot Chris, but Chris grabs onto Jesse and they tussle, and the head sheriff ends up getting shot in the chest. Who happens to be Jesse's dad. So
be honest, did you know this was Jesse's dad until this point? Because I didn't.
the very first scene they mention it. After he kicks the sign, they have a conversation, or they're talking for another minute, and he calls him son.
I thought it was just like the old South son, like he was being
No,
to him.
no. Because when they're then in the general store that Sam's dad owns, his dad, Jesse's dad, is talking to the other dad, and he mentions his son and everything when they're talking the conversation.
Yeah, well, I did not realize it until this moment, and he is so dramatically upset at the death of his father.
It's great. You want to talk about overacting? This is beautiful. It's just ridiculous because it comes out of nowhere. They're just sitting in the back of the van, and he's holding his dad's chest and just starts yelling. And then he, like you said, he's the one who decides that he's going to get vengeance and decides to curse Chris's name while shouting with the gun in his hand. And his dad dies in his arms in the back of the ambulance. And then he looks to the gun and starts talking to the gun. And like he knows that his dad's dead, and for some reason he's like, "Oh, this used to be my dad's. His soul is in this gun now. Well, Dad, we're gonna get the motherfucker. We're gonna get him this time." And I'm just like, "What? Why?"
And then we hard cut from the back of a truck with his dead father to a Klan rally that I guess was happening.
Yes, a Klan rally where up until this point most of these characters just existed in the regular world. They cut to a very simple shot of the people who are at the Klan rally who decide to show up for attendance. And there's two of them that are in the foreground that look like they're supposed to represent the most stereotypical, idiotic, backwoods Southerner ever. But everyone else in the room that's not dressed as a KKK member looks fine.
Yeah, well, they were just crew members that happened to be standing around, and they pulled them into the shot.
They make sure, like the way that one guy's wearing his hat, the way he's holding like a half-woven wicker basket in his hand, and the other one's got like a moonshine jug.
It's the South. Is that not what the South is like? I live in Texas. We carry moonshine jugs all the time.
Well, so that's my fault. I apologize, Scott, that I didn't reach out to you.
Yeah, you made a mistake.
They go back into the woods for what felt like another 30 minutes of the movie, and they try to have banter back and forth with each other, and it doesn't work.
You know what the crazy part about this is? They're in the woods for probably 45 minutes of this movie.
Yes.
But they are always 5 seconds away from a road. Always. Yes. I don't know where they're going, but wherever it is, there's a road right there.
And they've got lots of moments of silence, so it's pretty jarring where after Jesse and Chris basically kill the dad, the sheriff, that he has a breakdown. I mean, he's had it a little bit earlier when he got into a fight and he really didn't want to, but now with the death of the sheriff of the town, he's basically completely losing it. Just take a listen.
I'm not perfect. I'm still learning. Oh, Dad, all I wanted was to make you proud of me. I failed. I'm supposed to know how to avoid fighting. Be invisible.
And it is fantastic. I love this part.
It's just, it's so weird. He's pacing the whole time while this is going on. And so just picture somebody putting the least amount of body action or effort into moving their body while having this this little conversation, or I guess just external monologue taking place. But that's your hero is the thing. This is the guy who he did the training to learn the skills to be able to perfect or protect and defend people who are close to him as well as himself. And yet any time that he does so, he has a crisis of conscience.
Right, and by establishing the parameters as these are racist KKK members that killed an innocent black man, you're not putting moral grayness into it. He was a bad guy. Like,
yes.
If we want this guy to feel conflicted about the violence that he's using, maybe make it less morally black and white, like less obvious that like these are bad people and should be punished. Like it doesn't work.
Yeah, because of the fact that he is a ninja who is terrible at his job. He believes that using light amounts of mud and smearing it on himself at first just light amount of mud is going to work as natural camouflage. And then when he actually has access to mud, he decides that he's going to spread it on only 3/4 of his face.
That's how that works. I just love that he is constantly getting spotted. Like when they sneak into the barn, they're just immediately spotted. He's the worst ninja ever.
He's spotted in the barn. They chain him up and then set fire to the barn.
But first, they leave him. So he sneaks into the barn. There is a bright open window 5 feet from the barn they sneak into with a guy sitting in front of it, so they don't notice that they're being observed. But then they hang out in the barn, end up banging, and fall asleep, and then the people come to get them later that night.
That's a question that can never be answered.
No, I mean, none of the questions on this can be answered.
Well, okay, you have that. You have the big, supposedly final confrontation that you're going to have between Jesse and Chris, and it ends in the weirdest fashion possible. That I was just like, that's hilarious only because I didn't see it as an option that the movie was going to take.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's called Ninja Vengeance. You have a ninja that's played by Chris, and yet it's Sam who wields a shotgun and blows the fuck out of Jesse.
And it's, okay, like, she's, like, destroyed by it afterwards, and, like, instead of helping out, her love interest in the movie is over the dead body of Jesse, who, again, is objectively a terrible human being. Yes. He murdered a black man for no other reason than he was black. And she's, like, crying over his dead body. And I was like, what the fuck is this movie doing?
Pacifism is not an option, and yet you should and yet you should feel bad if you ever think that it is a movie. And that's what the movie's basically saying. Hey, listen, sometimes you're going to have to kill some people, and you're going to feel terrible about it. But guess what? You're probably going to have to kill some more people later, because that's just how life goes.
You know what I was surprised with in this movie? A movie with as cheap...
That Chris never makes it to a seminar?
Well, yeah, that's true. But a movie as cheaply made as this one had a lot of fire stunts. There's a man that's lit on fire at the beginning.
Because he casually backs into the burning cross at the Klan rally.
Yeah. I wonder if that was like officially sanctioned by the union to light this guy on fire. I kind of think no.
I'm sorry, because I was worried there for a second that you were going to say something else. I thought that you were going to say, I wondered if this was officially sanctioned as okay by the local KKK
the Klan
chapter.
No, I'm not so worried about that.
They had to go find the Grand Cyclops and ask for his permission.
But yeah, then they burn down the barn, so there's another a fire stunt that's done, and then they have the whole burning cross at the end, which again is imagery that doesn't make sense in the movie you're setting up, because the people that are fighting are two white guys. It doesn't, like, none of this makes sense.
No, just none of it makes sense. Also because of the fact that they've got the FBI is what shows up at the end.
Well, they're investigating hate crimes, right?
Exactly. And just, happen to be in the area. And as the movie is fading out of the final scene, they cut in as the end credit song is starting and have a little announcement mentioning that the FBI heard about the situation and was looking into whatever possible leads there were. And it's just like, but we just saw the scene. We just saw the end of the scene, and you're literally just describing what just happened.
Just want to make sure it landed home for you, because this is the conceit. This is the most important part of the movie, that the FBI came in and saved the day randomly.
Not vengeance being had.
No.
By someone who may or may not be a ninja. More so a warrior who's learned the ways of ninjutsu from his father's grandfather.
So, Adrian, okay. you want to know how I can fix this movie? I can do it really easily. It's really easy.
I want to know.
Okay, here we go. Make the main character a black guy. Done.
So make him...
he can still be a ninja.
No, hold on. Make him the character who's listed in the credits as Mike's black friend?
Yeah, exactly.
Or have Chris actually have a spine and know Mike's black friend, and that's why he's stopping through town to grab lunch to catch up with this guy on the way to the seminar, and then the two of them team up.
Yeah, but even if he's black, he could still be a ninja. He could still be going to a seminar in Houston. He stops in on this town. He walks into this bar, and there's Mike there, and Mike warns him. He's like, "Hey, man, just so you know, people like us don't do very well here." And tries to warn him and help him, and they kind of bond over the fact that people jump on them and are super racist. And then he's out jogging late at night and sees him get killed and jumps to defend him. And then all the Ku Klux Klan racist stuff works because he's a black guy.
Scott.
Yes.
I've got it because this is made in 1988. We'd have to change a couple things. We're jettisoning the director. We're just getting him out of there. He's automatically going into the Phantom Zone. We'll talk about his movie later, but he is relegated into the Phantom Zone. But get rid of him. You get a director, an actor that's going to seem like a ridiculous choice, and then you can have a stab at the third actor, because I can't think of one directly off the top of my head, but the idea would actually be perfect and would fit into that 80s staple. You get Walter Hill as director, who famously did what's called 48 Hours and a whole bunch of other movies in the 80s.
Yeah.
Was huge on it. You have and yes, I know this sounds terrible, but think about their early movies. You get Steven Seagal to be Chris.
Oh my god.
and then you have Mike's black friend still be his, old friend that they grew up together and everything. And Steven Seagal, they lost touch or whatever, and that's why he's coming to visit him, so they can have lunch on this way to this seminar that, of course, because of Steven Seagal, it would be his seminar where he's going to speak on behalf of his mentor who passed away recently. But his black friend is either the only black cop on the police force because of affirmative action, or is a junior G-man with the FBI whose base is one town over. And when Mike's killed, they have to team up to try to, figure out
I can do that.
Who did it. Because you have that, and then boom, that movie it may not have been the greatest thing in the world, but that sounds exactly like a movie that would have come out in the 80s.
It does. And I think you have to have a prominent black character in this movie. If you're going to talk about the Ku Klux Klan, if you're going to talk about racism, if you're going to talk about how black people in the South suffer under institutionalized racism in a police force, you have to have a black character in your movie. You can't you can't just have two white guys fighting each other. It doesn't make any sense.
That's terrible. I thought they could get away with it, Scott.
Jesus. God,
so many things to learn about in the world. Okay. Do you have a ray of sunshine?
No. I mean, okay. If I had to come up with one, there are parts of this movie that made me laugh. The ADR being terrible always makes me laugh. The sound being awful made me laugh. I loved the nonsense with the yin yang pendant. that
Yes.
that Sam steals for no reason, and then gives it back to him, and that's like one of their bonding things. But okay, my favorite part of the movie is when she starts mooing like a cow for no reason.
I guess she mentions that there could easily be cows in the forest.
Pretending to be a cow in the forest would be a better way to camouflage than putting a little bit of dirt on you.
Because it's what people are expecting.
To be fair, it's probably better camouflage than sprinkling a little bit of dirt on you.
No. Just no. I'm going to stick with the two moments that we've already covered. The no scene when he's in the back of the ambulance is just it's so stupid that it's funny, and just because it makes no sense because they're spending time with this character, and I was like, are we supposed to feel bad for Jesse now that he's like I couldn't track it exactly what they wanted me to, like, why am I seeing the scene? I know that his dad's dead, and we can have a line later just talking about, how he wants to get revenge now because of his dead dad. But no, we just have him holding on to him in the weird conversation that follows, and it's terrible. But that, and then the fact that he's on the Kawasaki Ninja, and they make sure that the word ninja is prominently on it for like a long period of time. It's so bad, but at the same time, I'm like, yes, this is the only redeemable moment here.
I do think you're right that the movie wanted to say Ku Klux Klan bad, but also maybe not that bad. Is what the movie was kind of trying to do.
My uncle, who may be kind of racist, gave us a movie or gave us some money for this, and he wants an associate producer credit, so maybe we can't be that mean. But we'll make it work. It'll be fine. We've got the greatest American ninja stuntman in town here, and he's going to lead this movie.
He's going to do so many flippies and rolls.
Yes, because of the fact that it's 99.9999999% of people that are in this movie have not done anything else.
Yeah. The only person who has a actual picture on IMDb is the director's wife, who plays the waitress, who has also starred, in quotes, in one episode of many television shows over the years, especially things in which she has to be a courtroom stenographer.
Hey, Scott, she was in Liar Liar.
She was courtroom stenographer in Liar Liar.
Hey, if you can corner a market, you take it.
I didn't realize that the courtroom stenographer market was of high demand.
How many different shows have courtroom scenes in them?
Yeah, but none of those people ever say anything. It's a silent role.
So?
They just sit there pretending to type on a thingy.
Yeah, well, that's because they're the silent hero, Scott. They're the person that when it comes to, some casting director who says, "Oh fuck, we need somebody who's perfect at playing a courtroom stenographer. I don't want to have to go through hours and hours of auditions. I don't want to have to read so many different files. Wait, what's that? This person has on their CV that they've already played 6 different court stenographers in their career? Well, that's the person that you go to when you need that.
We need someone that can be there, but also is so forgettable we might not even notice her.
Yeah, it's somebody who takes their job 1,000 times more seriously than Ricky Gervais on Extras.
Man, I love that show.
Okay, I think it's time for the vote. What say you, Scott?
This is a real tough one. No, it's not. This is guilty. This is like I want to believe in the good in every movie.
Hold on. Wait, I'm going to stop you there.
Uh-oh.
Because I'm going to do something special in a second.
What?
I'm actually voting not guilty.
What?
On this one. For one reason. The first half of the movie is like buys into the craziness and the zaniness and the terrible decisions. And the second half still does have those insane decisions. It just doesn't have as many as them. It slogs down in a little bit, like here and there. And two things popped up in my mind. One are some of the so-so episodes of the original MST3K, and there were episodes where you loved certain parts of them because they were chock full of riffs, but then it would slowly, it wouldn't be there for the full time. And it wasn't their fault. It's just that the movie wasn't giving them much material because it slowed down. It didn't lessen any of those other parts that were there that were so enjoyable or so ridiculous, but it made you wish that you had gotten a little bit more. And the other one is Video Vortex. This movie, if somebody had a VHS copy, with all the like rainbow bands and everything, that this would be the perfect type of movie that would play at Video Vortex.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, it's tough to say, yes, this movie has enough goofy, funny things in it that watching it with a crowd and making fun of it would make it passable. I guess that's a good argument. I still think the middle of this movie is so boring that there's just nothing to do with it. And it's more exploitative of black people than blaxploitation films are, because it uses them as just a tool to trigger conflict and nothing else.
Yes. That's what I was going to say. The special thing that I was going to do is I was going to let this be your call, because we're split, and so that's why I'm putting this one in your hands. You're the one who decides the final fate of it. All right. I know which way you're going to turn, but I wanted to say my short little piece, and then I wanted to throw this back to you so that you're able to give the final say, because I wanted to try that out and see what the response is. That because the people are like, fuck that, no, don't give Scott that power, or neither one of you should have that power. Bring it to us with the Twitter poll, then we can do that in the future.
Yeah. Okay. So I am going to reverse my vote, because you've given me too much power, and now I fear the power, and I think this is a bad movie. I think it's kind of a disgusting movie in a lot of ways, but maybe people should watch it just to see how not to make a movie about the Ku Klux Klan. So yeah, I'm going to say not guilty, and I think if you're going to watch this movie, get a little drunk and get with your friends.
Yes, I think that's the best way to watch it. And Scott, I think you just walked the way of the ninja. You found a challenge that presented itself to you. You sought the opportunity. You were able to move past it and harness that into energy.
Did you just draw a yin yang?
No, that's not what that looks like. You
just draw like a couple circles inside of another circle and call it a yin yang?
With a squiggly line, and I put two eyes next to each other. It's a really sad looking cross-eyed person, because I can't draw very well. That's a representation of what it looks like in the movie.
It really is. It's terrible. I wish we could find. I doubt we can find a copy of it, but
I'll try to see what I can do. I'll try to work some terrible, terrible magic.
That's Ninja Vengeance.
We have an episode that we wanted to try to do for next week, but Vudu took off the movie. So I'm going to try to see if there's another easy way for us to view it on, like, if it happens to be on YouTube, or if I'm just not looking in the right place on Vudu, because when we looked for this movie originally, you couldn't search for it by name, but by digging through the Vudu movies on us, we were able to locate the movie, which has never happened before. So we're gonna try. We won't say what it is. It is now. We don't want to give anything away.
It'll be fun.
So it'll be a surprise. It might be something that you guys have been looking for us to do for a while, and we decided we needed to get back on that horse. Scott, where can we find you online?
I can be found on Twitter at ScottDaly85. That's DALY. And you can find me and all the other stuff I do, writing, podcasts, and everything else at dailyplanetfilms.com.
All right, and you can find me at Yo Adrian Torres on Twitter. At the same time, you can check out some writings that I've done on boomhowdy.com. Just had 2 reviews that went up earlier tonight. One of them was Diary of a Wimpy Kid, because I say yes to every movie that's put in front of me.
Now, did you have to see all the previous Wimpy Kid in the Wimpy Kid Extended Universe film?
I actually had seen the first 2 years ago because I screened them when I was working at a movie theater. The third one I hadn't seen until this past Saturday at 6 o'clock in the morning, because I had my screening of the fourth one was just a couple hours later.
Wow, that's interesting.
So yes, I have now seen all 4 of them.
That's wow.
I think I think the third one's the best, and that's just because they found their right mix of tone and the characters, and then this fourth movie had to get a new acting cast because of the fact that the kids were getting too old and are between the ages of like 17 and 25 now, but it doesn't work because of that, because the actors just aren't matching the same, and you've got somebody who's playing a facsimile of a facsimile of a facsimile, just copy of a copy of a copy of a copy. It wears down over time. The reason that's sad to say is with this fourth movie, they actually brought on the writer of the books to write the screenplay for this one. And the tone's completely different. Like, it moves way, way, way too far into like the broad spectrum of comedy. And I actually put in my review that it feels like a really neutered, watered down version of any of the vacation movies.
Well, this is, I think, way more talking about the Diary of a Wimpy Kid than any podcast needs to ever do, ever.
It's okay.
To counteract it,
my other review that I had up on there is for Norman, the new Richard Gere movie, which it's not a big movie. It's not going to completely knock you off your socks, but it's a solid, fun movie, and Richard Gere is absolutely astounding in it.
It's Richard Gere, of course he is.
Oh, yeah, but this is a different type of Richard Gere, so it's really well done. Until cool. Next time. What were you going to say something?
I just said cool.
Oh, well.
I ruined your outro. I'm sorry.
You did.
I wanted to.
That is not going the way of the ninjutsu mountain warrior invisible thing.
And you know what? I could cut this. I'm not going to do it.
No, because you're more like Jesse.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Not cool, man.
Until next time, everyone. Until next time.
Not cool.